Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever in this great world you might be. My name is Jack Branch, and this is the Healthy Wealth Show, episode number 36. It's been quite some time since I've done some content here, but I met a gentleman when I was out in Denver a few weeks back who he and I do some stuff in the radio world, helping people near or in retirement not squander their wealth and think about it in terms of more from a safety standpoint than just, white knuckle approach. And in talking to this gentleman and hearing his background, it was a very similar story as mine. We both had come from the corporate world. We both had not just been in the financial arena, so we had some bad advice from the industry or the cult, as Jeff and I might call it. And we made a decision when we got in this business to not put institutions, but put individuals in control of the wealth. And the purpose of this Healthy Wealth Show is to help people not only accrue and enjoy their wealth, but also take care of their health. So I try to interview thought leaders, whether it's in faith, whether it's in business, or whether it's in the health arena. And so I'm very excited today. A good friend of mine out of Indiana who does his radio show out of Cincinnati, and that's a friend of mine, Jeff Brummett. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm well. How are you, Jack?
I'm very well. And, again, thank you for taking the time. I know you're a busy guy as well as I am to really share this passion about this book that you've written. And, but tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and what you did prior to getting in the financial arena.
Sure. So, for most of my life, this is actually I tell people this is my second professional life. But for my first professional life and most of my life, I was in the corporate world or an entrepreneur. I worked as a manufacturing manager for Ford Motor Company and for several years, and then I left Ford and started another company that ultimately grew over the next decade to become a two-time Inc. 500 company. And eventually I pulled my father out of retirement. He was a controller in his professional life and had retired, and I convinced him to come out of retirement as we started to grow, and so he joined me in the venture. So it was kind of a father. We had a lot of fun. It was a father and son thing when we started out, but we grew to about 75 full and part-time employees, and we had a lot of fun with it. But one of the things that happens when you start a small company and it grows, and we were both a manufacturer and a distributor of video surveillance products, so cameras and video surveillance software, that sort of thing, analytics. And so as the manufacturer and serving as a distributor, it ends up you need a lot of money. Inventories are expensive, and of course none of this stuff in the electronic world is actually manufactured and made here in the United States. So you had overseas relationships with manufacturers and international letters of credit. And so as we began to grow, we needed a lot of capital to finance really the lag time between the time that we would need to order materials from overseas. For listeners who may not understand how that works, when you're dealing with overseas manufacturers, you're going to have to pay cash up front or what's called a letter of credit from your bank, and that's where you shift money into that letter of credit. And once it's there in that letter of credit, the bank kind of serves as the holding spot to safeguard both parties, and so the overseas manufacturer will then begin to manufacture the material, the product. Once they have it done and it's on a boat, that letter of credit then gets boat from China. I figured out that was a real boat, actually. It takes about 30 days to get from the Asian world, where everything is manufactured today, here to the United States. So we need some kind of mechanism that would help us float that the time period that we had actually spent the money, or in our case, put it in a letter of credit, to the time that we had gotten the raw materials, and then we're able to do our manufacturing at add-on, sell it, and then collect, because we were obviously selling as a wholesaler to dealers and distributors all over the country. So, you had to give them terms, right? And the larger the dealer, the more terms you had to give them. We had some very, very large distributors and dealers where they were getting net 91, a couple of cases, even 120 days to pay. So when you could easily be, 4, 5, 6 months before you collected after you'd spent that. And so we needed letters and lines of credit. Our personal, family wealth got it. We went through that pretty quick. So the banking world, we turned to the banking world, and of course they loved us. We were growing, and they saw the revenues and the sales pipelines that we have. And in the early stages, they were very, very happy to help. And in fact, once we had hit the Inc. 500 list, we had lots. That's like the call list for every equity capital firm in the country. Your phone begins to ring off the hook, people wanting to invest, and you need more capital, you need equity partners. And our bank kept, telling us, we were fine, there was a sea of money there at the time, just keep doing what you're doing, so we did. And we figured that, equity is a lot more expensive than paying, whatever the bank rate was for the interest on the loans, and which we needed just really for cash flow. So we did that for several years, and in 2008, with the implosion of the banking world, the commercial banking world particularly, we had a meeting with our bank. It was sometime maybe early midsummer. It was just right before the proverbial stink had hit the fan and become public to what the real situation was with the banks and their liquidity and the mortgage defaults and all that stuff. So we went into this meeting with our bank, and the initial meeting, it was our annual credit review we have every year, and the initial meeting was, hey, you guys are beautiful, we love you, we wish, in fact, they actually said this, they said, we wish, we could just bottle and sell what you're able to accomplish. We'd like to have 100 clients just like you. And their assessment was we needed more, a higher line of credit. They were going to more than triple that line for the following year, and we were going to get back together in 2 or 3 weeks to iron out the new covenant relationships on the credit facility. Everything was good. And in that window of time, that 2 weeks turned into a lot longer than 2 weeks. By the time they finally came back to the meeting, you could tell as soon as they walked in the door something was wrong. And we had started to get a sense of, that there was an issue in the credit world. And did they lower the boom. And all of a sudden, we went from being beautiful and they loved us to, our feet stunk and we had bad breath or something. They were completely different. And so the bottom line was, in an instant, we went from having lines of credit that were tripled to the good news, bad news. So the good news is we're not going to call the existing line of credit or the credit facility. You guys are fine. You're just going to have to figure out a way to live within it for, the near term until all of the dust settles and the liquidity, comes back to the market. And the reason that they gave us that is because we were growing too fast. Now, can you imagine a banker looking at you and telling you there's too much growth here? And because you're growing fast, you're actually a higher risk for us. It didn't make any sense. Still doesn't make any sense, really. But it was what it was, and of course, he who holds the gold rules, and so we were stuck with facing, what do? The problem is our pipelines were 5 and 6 month pipelines, so to turn that boat around was, on a dime was impossible. We couldn't do that, and when you looked at the cash flow situation, it didn't take, literally, my father, who spent his entire career with Ford Motor Company in the controller's office at the local plant level, managing billion-dollar budgets, responsible for meeting and managing those budgets, setting the budgets. And, it didn't take either one of us 15 seconds to do the math and know that we were probably within a 90-day period of hitting a brick wall.
Wow.
On the existing credit facility because of the growth and the commitments that we'd already made. So anyway, long story short is we had about 3 different equity capital firms that we've been keeping at arm's length that the bank had introduced us to, made offers for us within about a 90-day period, which is lightning fast if you know anything about the capital process. The day, these equity capital firms, which I now call vulture capital firms, when they saw the situation that we were in, the same firms that were offering, in previous years, maybe 30 to 40% equity stakes for the kind of money that we were looking for and that we needed, now had moved that to 90%. That was the best offer that we had. Because they knew that if we didn't take we had no bargaining position. They knew what we knew. They knew that, if we didn't take their offer, there was no way we were going to make it. And so, surprising to me, my father came back about a week after the dust settled and we were, had a deadline to meet with these equity capital people, and he said, "Look, I'm not going to take the offer." We both had our lives invested in it, but he had a whole lot more. He had gone all in with his retirement, everything that he had worked for his whole life, 38 years with Ford Motor Company. He had invested into the company, and he was going to lose it all. And I looked at him, I said, "Dad, but there's no way for us, this, there's no way for us to make this without them." And he said, "I know." He said, "But there's something you don't know." And that's when he shared with me that, my mom had she'd acquired cancer, been diagnosed with cancer, and it had changed his perspective. And so it wasn't worth it for him. We were going to have to give up the next 5 years of our lives and in non-competes and management contracts, and I don't think that's something that he felt like would have been worth the price, because at that time there wasn't a guarantee that Mom would have more than 5 or 6 years of good years left. So anyway, for personal reasons, he decided to throw in the towel and not accept the offers, and by the end of that year we lost everything, and I mean everything, Jack. There was nothing left. But so watching all that made a deep, profound impression on me, because what I learned, looking back at it, we never realized, I don't think fully, it never felt like to us that we were exposed that much to risk. Yeah, we knew that, starting a business, investing, there's risk involved, but we felt like we were in control because it was our business. I mean, we were the ones running it. We knew what the pipelines were. We knew what the market was. You feel like you're in control. And so you're more comfortable with the risk, I guess, and you don't look at it as risk. And then when you've got, some of the largest banks in the world coming in willing to loan you money and telling you you're beautiful and giving you multi-million-dollar lines of credit and just keep doing what you're doing, you just forget about the idea that there's that much risk involved and that you're really that vulnerable. And not until the hammer had fallen did you really understand all of that, and that's what I learned from it, and watching my parents go through that, where they lost everything really that he had worked his entire life for, pretty much. It was devastating to watch, and it got worse even for me. I mean, I went through a divorce shortly thereafter. My kids and I were left with a house that we ultimately lost, and I had to move back in with my parents who were broke. In fact, the only salvation for them was that when my father retired from Ford Motor Company, he had a pension. And, of course, they had the Social Security, and Mom had Social Security, they had their pension, and they didn't lose that. And they didn't have any personal debt outside of the business, and they lived in Florida, so they couldn't lose their home. It's a homestead state. Had they not had those things, I don't know that any of us would have had a place to live, frankly.
Wow.
And it was the most humbling thing I had ever gone through in my life. I mean, one minute you're on top of the world, and the next minute you're divorced, you're homeless, and you're moving back in with your parents, in your 40s. You got two, teenage children that are depending on you. It was
the perfect storm, wasn't it?
It was the perfect storm, and you wouldn't wish that on anyone. So it was interesting, though. So how I got into this business, we're in Florida. We haven't probably been there more than a week, and my dad he says, hey, your mom and I want to have a talk, and so we had the talk. And he had watched me kind of mope around the whole time. I was depressed, obviously, for good reason. But he came to me, and I'm going to paraphrase the conversation, but it was probably the most profound impact talk that I'd ever had from certainly my adult life. He looked at me and he said, your problem is, we're watching you mope around here for the last however many days it'd been, and he said, frankly, if that's the way it's going to be, and you're going to be moping, you can do that someplace else. And I was like, wow, he said, look, right to be, you've lost a home, you lost your marriage, you've lost a business, who wouldn't be depressed? He said, but moping and feeling sorry for yourself is not going to solve any of the problems, and that's not the way your mom and I raised you.
Wow.
And he said, what you need to do is you need to figure out, what has happened, why it happened, and try to understand and learn from it, because you're still young enough. If you don't give up, you're still young enough. You can help people, and you can recover from this. But you got to get your head out of the, proverbial, what. And so that was the kind of the gist that he gave to me, and it profoundly impacted how I thought about the whole process. And I started thinking, even then, what did happen? I mean, how did this thing implode that fast? And the market, employment trying to, for somebody like me, particularly, having had the success as an entrepreneur, it was very difficult for me. The corporate world wasn't interested because of the entrepreneurial success, and smaller businesses, they were kind of afraid to bring me on. So it took a while to recover, and during that time, I was able to, start doing some research. I did a lot of reading, started researching the financial system, the banking system. That really started the process of, just a revelation of what really was going on, and that rabbit hole just continued to get deeper and deeper as I studied it. And eventually, it's what brought me to make the decision to get into the financial world. I think it was probably 2000, late 2012, maybe mid 2013 when I finally made that commitment, and decided to begin to do what I'm doing now. And when I first got in, I got securities license, I got all the insurance licenses, went through all the trainings and everything, and was planning on doing both. But the more I studied and the more I started learning about the financial systems and really how they were engineered and set up to begin with, I started to gravitate more toward the safe money financial advising side, and certainly what I watched my parents go through, I think, colored that decision substantially.
What a great story! I mean, you hear about people that theoretically have gone through 08 and 09, and wow, I mean, you really lived it. And look, and now you're able to help others avoid it, even if they have businesses or they are, putting all their trust in this, house of cards, if you will. I mean, you and I were talking, just today. I mean, there's a rumor of a meeting with China, and the market goes up by 500, points. I mean, it's just, there's no rhyme or reason or real structural basis for a lot of this. It's based on a lot of hype, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's based on a lot of hype, but don't
make the mistake of thinking there's no rhyme and reason. I can promise you there is absolutely rhyme and reason. It's just not the rhyme and reason that has been disseminated to the mass public. If you look on any given day, Jack, and I know you do this, but if you look at any given day, so you can go on to Yahoo, Finance, and look at the market recaps, right? The real-time market recaps. I don't care whether you're looking at the S&P 500, whether you're looking at the Dow, whether you're looking at the NASDAQ, the Russell, pick the index, right? Those bars and graphs look virtually identical on the timeline every day. There's no diversification. Okay, they're very, very subtle. The margin of error is within the statistical process control of the manufacturing facility. It's unbelievable. And to think that, we're led to believe that these things are independent and free market, and yet, everything is driven by somebody who's controlling those markets, because when you look at how they interact in a course of a day, they are virtually identical. And that's the first clue that this thing is manipulated. That's the first clue that there's not an autonomy between the markets or investors, for that matter. There are people at the top who are controlling those markets with sums of money that you and I could not even begin to fathom. It's funny, every day the market goes up or whether it goes down, particularly the days when it goes down, I meet with clients, and, we've seen, just here recently, we've seen market swings 3, 4, 5, 600% or points in a day with the Dow particularly, and 2, 3% sometimes in a single day. And yet when you talk to the average client, and I'm talking, when I say average client, I'm, middle and upper middle class client who have money positioned in the market, and you ask them, I said, did you sell today? None of them are going to say yes. It's not their money. It's not our money. It's not the people's money that's moving out of the market and causing it to drop. It is people at the top who are manipulating and selling, making political statements and trying to control global economies and or politicians that are really in control, and they move and they operate on a whole different set of rules, regulations, rest who are, to most of us anyway, tied to these tax qualified accounts we call 401ks, IRAs, etc.
So how did you come up with this book? I mean, obviously you've given us some backstory here, how you got out of being an entrepreneur in manufacturing, going through the credit crisis, having that dry up, to then trying to reinvent yourself in your 40s to make other people not fall into the same circumstances that maybe your father did. What was the premise, if you will, after you did your research about this worth less IRA, how Wall Street and basically Uncle Sam, as you said, getting their greedy little fingers on your hard-earned money? What became that passion? Obviously, you kind of led to that, but how did that all come together? And what are you hoping, people that are listening to your and my voice right now will do to take that step and read this book, if you will?
Yeah. Got into the business. I got securities license, insurance license, and my thought at that time was I was, going to be a whole enchilada advisor. But my fear, my trepidation, my concern as an individual is I'm going to start giving people advice on, one of the most important, certainly from a financial standpoint, probably one of the largest, first or second largest financial assets they own between their retirement savings, their IRA, their 401k, or maybe their home, right? And that scared the devil out of me because I don't want to hurt anybody. And I have seen, based on my advice, and I had seen my father, lose everything. So I was very cautious, and I spent a little over a year once I got all of the licenses before I ever operated in incapacity on either side of the fence, just studying and going to training and seminars and looking at the most successful people, trying to understand so that when I finally did, start giving people advice,
you were ready.
I was ready, and I could sleep at night, on the advice that I was giving. That whole process, when you began to realize most of the people that you and I are going to serve, and we're not hedge fund managers, we're not dealing with billionaires, we're dealing with people, even on the high end, that might, have between 10 and $20 million of liquid net worth, and that would be, the high end. Most of those people from that point down, a lot of the money that they had, and certainly when you get under probably, I don't know, my experience, maybe $3 million or more in terms of liquid net worth, most of that money ends up being tied up in some type of tax-qualified investment vehicle. Would you agree?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, a lion's share. Just like you said, it's either house or an IRA or 401k. Yep, no doubt.
When I don't know about your practice, but when I sit down with clients and we look at their total, liquidity and net worth, I would say that fully 95% of the clients that I meet with, if you were to, look at a ledger, they have 95% of their entire liquid net worth, 90 to 95% of their entire liquid net worth wrapped up in a tax-qualified account, IRA, 401k, etc., and less than usually 10% stored in another facility. Let me give you an example. So if somebody comes to me and they got $1 million, liquid net worth, over 900,000 of that is going to be sitting in some sort of IRA or 401k, 403b, whatever tax qualified plan through their employer or individual. Less than 100,000 is going to be sitting in their bank, in their mattress, in gold, something else, right? And that's just across the board. There are exceptions. And if you're watching the video, ultimately the show, and you're one of those exceptions, you need to understand you are the exception because that is across the board the rule. And so when you realize that, then I started to understand, okay, it's really important for me to understand how these tax-qualified instruments are put together and how we can, as consumers of those types of instruments, squeeze them and get the best yield out of them as we can. So when I started looking at how the laws were written, I just was blown away. These things, I talk about them in my book. If you read under what you were signing up for, I don't think anybody would have signed up for them. I mean, so let me just give you. We have time for me to give an example.
Sure,
right?
Absolutely.
So let me just give you an example. If we were going to go into business, and this is actually one of the stories I tell in one of the chapters of the book. If we're going to go into business, and you come to me and you say, hey, let's go into business, and we're going to split things 50-50 because what you bring and what I bring has equal value, so that's fair. So we decide, okay, we're gonna split the business 50-50. But then at the last minute, I come to you, Jack, and I say, look, I know we agreed on this, but I want to put a clause in our agreement here that I, independent from anything you can say or do, have the right to any time I want raise my percentage of ownership in our business to whatever I feel like I need on any given day or year. Now, Jack, would you go into business under that agreement?
Never.
But that is exactly the agreement that we have with a 401k and an IRA.
It's funny you say that. I use that same story in the form of a loan and a guy needing a roof. And 100% of the people say they would never take that loan, yet 95% of it take that loan every day going to work.
Sure, that's another great illustration. You got a friend that comes to you and says, hey, I need money for this or that, whatever. Yeah. Hey, great, I love you, you're my friend, I'm going to give you the money. And sure, well, you're not going to sign that document until you find out one thing, maybe a couple things, but one thing for sure, and that would be, well, what's the cost of the loan, right?
The interest rate and the
how much
term.
interest are you going to charge me? What's that going to cost? And what are the repayment terms? When am I going to start paying this thing back? At what rate? All of those things. You're not signing that loan document until you know those things. What if you looked at the loan document that I gave you and you started reading? It's like, Jeff, I know we're friends and you love me, but I'm having a trouble here. Nowhere in this document do you tell me what the interest rate's going to be on the loan, or when I have to start paying it back, or how much I have to start. And what if I looked at you and said, Jack, look, we're friends. I love you. I'm just trying to help you. Don't worry about it. Here, let's do it this way. Sure, I'm going to need this money back at some point, and let's do it this way. When that day comes, I'll just kind of look at what my need is, and I'll let you know, what the cost of the loan's going to be and what the repayment terms are going to be. Are you signing that loan?
Never.
No. But that is exactly because nothing in the IRS code, because they've given us a loan, right? I mean, the money that we don't pay taxes on if we're deferring, if we're in a traditional IRA or 401k tax qualified event, they're giving us a loan. They say, normally you would owe this to us today, but we're going to loan it back to you, and you get to use it and control it. You can invest it however you see fit, as long as it's within these rules, right? Because you can't invest it anywhere. Right? You don't have you have to go and invest it where they tell you is a qualified investment account, right?
Yeah.
But you can go and you can use this for the next X number of years, but at some point, you're going to need to pay that loan back. When you start taking distributions, okay, that's when we pay the loan back. That's when we have to, report the income. The problem is nowhere in the IRS code does it say or promise or guarantee us what the tax rate will be on that loan that they've given us in the day that we take it back? We're taught to think that it's going to be lower, because your income's lower, right? I mean, you retire, your income goes down, so therefore you're in a theoretically lower marginal tax bracket. But it's amazing. People don't realize this. Today, you talk to young people, I think probably most of them think that the 401k and IRA has just always been around, but they weren't always around. And if you go back prior to 1980, people didn't own these things. And so they're relatively new. And in 1980, a couple things were different. Number one, we were not basically $2 trillion now in debt. I mean, in fact, in 1980, our GDP had just reached $1 trillion. We were still trying to wrap our minds around the general public what $1 billion was, let alone $1 trillion. $1 trillion was just a euphemism for more money than you could ever imagine, right? Our GDP had just hit $1 trillion. There's no way in the world anybody saw a day, anytime in the future, let alone our lifetime, where we would have $22 trillion of debt sat on us. And yet, in that very short span of time, that's exactly what happened. And it's relevant, that debt is relevant because that debt puts an onerous on the taxpayer and the tax collector. That revenue's got to come from somewhere. And my fear is that when the baby boomers as a generation begin to shift into retirement, which is already happening.
The next 10 years is real big in that capacity.
Oh, yeah, the next 10 years is just, that curve is exponentially punitive. There are some 55, I think, the last statistics that I saw, some 55 million baby boomers who have yet to turn 65. All of those are going to turn 65 by the end of the year 2029, according to Department of Labor and census reports. So you're seeing an exponential curve that we have not even begun to feel. And here's what's going to happen. As those people, hit that magical point in time where they retire, they stop buying stocks, number one, right? You don't fund stocks. You may buy, sell, right, the left pocket, money every week. You don't have income to do that. Now you're living off of that. So you've got 55 million people who are in the future, and then over the next 10 years, to the tune of about 10,000 a day every day, who are now buying stocks, and those same people are now starting to sell, because even if they don't need the money at 70 and a half, they've got to start liquidating those accounts. So when you start doing the math on that, you realize that the market's got a lot of problems. It's got a headwind like you and I have never, there's a hurricane right now hitting the East Coast, and I'm telling you, you want to understand the kind of headwinds that are hitting the market over the next decade, go down in North and South Carolina today.
Or look at the Bahamas. Look at what just went through the Bahamas, and that will kind of be a picture, if you will, of what could happen, potentially, as you said, with the manipulators in the market, and then the selling, the mass exodus out of the market. So what do you tell somebody? What's the alternative? I mean, put, structures in place to not be fully exposed, I guess. You and I both believe, right?
Yeah, and that's I mean, the good and the bad, there is a way to protect yourself, but there's not a way to do it that's not going to be, painful. I mean, there's no way. They have us locked into this. So one of the things that you could do if you weren't in a tax qualified account is you could simply take that money, sell it, pay a capital gain tax. And for most middle class investors, if they liquidated their entire retirement savings account, they probably would not pay more than 10 or 15% in capital gains tax. Would you agree? I mean, based on your experience, the levels of yeah. So that's, and by the way, that's a historic low. So if you weren't in that IRA qualified account, you could liquidate and you could move that money into a safe place. But that's not what we have. All of us, the vast majority of us, over 90%, we will pay income tax if we were to liquidate that account. And as a result, for a good percentage of those middle class people, they would be coughing up 35% or more in penalties and taxes, depending on their age, and that's a huge. I mean, that's a big pill to swallow, right?
Yes, no doubt.
So they don't want to go backwards, and then they've got advisors who would say, "Oh, you don't understand the taxes that you're going to have to pay if you take that," and so they back off of that. Well, those rules were actually put there in the beginning for this very day, I promise you. Because the people who architected the system saw this day. They knew what the demographics, they knew that there was a generation of baby boomers, and for the next 20 to 25 years, as that generation entered their working and prime productive years, there was going to be an economic windfall. And it wouldn't matter who was in who was in office, who our elected leaders were. Reagan was, in 1980, was in office, but the boom continued through his administration. It continued through the Clinton administration. You couldn't sidetrack that train if you wanted to. It was just nothing but up and up and up and up, because, well, there are 10,000 more buyers every day on the front side of that curve than there are sellers. And so that market's going to go up and up and up. Now we're on the backside. The people who architected this system, they were smart enough to see this coming. And you can, if you do the research, you can find out that from the beginning, people were saying, hey, whoa, this is all good now, but 30 years from now, when we're on the backside of this baby boom curve, whew, that's kind of scary. And people theorized, and then you saw all kinds of hocus-pocus dominocus theories. It'll be okay because of this, that, but it hasn't been. This system started to crumble probably in 2000 because of demographics, Jack. That's the underlying. You can talk about the dot-com bubble, and I'm not saying that there wasn't a bubble there, but that bubble would never have existed without the demographic positive swell that pushed it. That same demographic, and by that I mean 10,000 more buyers every day for about 10 or 15 years. That demographic is also going to be the undercurrent or the headwind that manipulates now what you're seeing on the backside of that. So every bubble that we've created is going to be exasperated exponentially because of the air that's now coming out of that balloon, and there's no way to stop that air from coming out.
Yeah, and I got the book up right here on Amazon. You can see The Worthless IRA. And how could they get this book or talk to you? I mean, you got an 800 number, right? 800-313-1097. Again, 800-313-1097. And I'll tell you, it has been amazing just hearing your story of what you went through, and the education that you chose to go dive in to make sure that you could throw life preservers so people don't experience what your dad and mom did.
Yeah, and it's amazing. There are other solutions. We talk about some of the solutions in the book to some degree, although I try not to go too far down that rabbit hole because everybody's, as you know, everybody's circumstance is different and going to be unique. So the solutions that might be the right solutions for, but we do offer some hope. But it is not a one size fits all. There are ways to avoid taxes, minimize taxes, move money around through rollovers and different other instruments that you can move money into. But the bottom line to people who are either in or approaching retirement today is, look, I tell people this all the time when I do seminars. You need to seek safety while safety can be found.
Boy, that's good. Say that again.
You need to seek safety while safety can be found. And that quote comes from a paraphrase of a proverb that people who are Christian will remember from you need to seek the Lord while he may be found, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want to wait too long. And the same thing, I think, is true when you're preparing your financial life, particularly when you're looking at fixed income years, and you know that you're going to be the one who's riding through this tumultuous period that is baked in demographically to our financial systems. Seeking safety and preparing for that while safety can be found is probably the most important advice you can give somebody today.
Jeff, I really appreciate your time today. And look, folks, if you haven't already called, definitely call that number, 800-313-1097, and ask Jeff to get you a copy of this Worthless IRA. He believes what I believe, that where your money is matters more than what you can earn. These hypothetical rates of return and all these things that are thrown out there are just hypothetical. And what you can enjoy, what you can experience in these golden years. You work so hard to put money in these accounts, and nobody really gives you any exit strategies out. A guy like Jeff, he'll show you how to basically take what you've got and make it better. He can't, part the Red Sea, and in some instances, I mean, you may have to keep things as they are and run to safety, as he said. But Jeff, I really appreciate your passion for helping people, understand and educate them. It's obvious that what you've been through was a life changer, and it's touching so many people. In the Cincinnati area where you do your radio show, and in Southeast Indiana as well. And what's one takeaway or call to action other than to call that number that that you think the listeners we should wrap up here and really summarize from this 45 minutes now we've chatted?
So probably two things. One, they can also go to Amazon and just search the Worthless IRA. They can get the book there. Or they can call me and I'll send a complimentary autograph copy if they take the time to call me, but they can also get it on Amazon. Here's what I'd like for people to realize. We get these brokerage statements for our life savings, and most of us have been trained to think that that's like a bank statement. That money, whatever that dollar amount there is that we're reading, is it's real, but it's not. And most people, I think that when they sell stock, I'm just talking about the average, they don't, whether in the back of their mind they realize this or not, we're trained to think that there's some kind of bank deposit where this money is stored and it's housed. And all we got to do is call our broker and cash in and say, hey, give me my account, right? But that's not how it works. That money is not being stored. Or even worse, they think that if they're invested in Google, for example, that Google's got that money, right? And that's not how it works. in the IPO, we give our money to Google, right? The independent public offering. But once that IPO is over and it's closed down, those people who gave their money to Google now have a piece of paper, and they've given up their money. And the only way they get that money back is when they can get somebody else to buy that piece of paper and give them their money. And so what you begin to realize when you think that through is there's nothing there until I get somebody else to give me their money. And what you don't want to have happen is, like any other Ponzi scheme, you don't want to be the last guy in. You don't want to be the last guy holding Google stock, to buy Google stock. Because the only way that's valuable for you is if there's somebody else on the other side waiting to give you money for that stock. And that's the problem that all of us are in. We're entering a phase where we've got demographics that there's going to come a day when nobody's going to want that stock anymore. Everybody's going to want to sell it. There aren't going to be enough buyers. And the only reason the market is going up right now, even since the 2008 recovery, is because corporations have been essentially given free money through virtually interest-free loans in the banking system. That's money that we printed, right?
Yep.
To put money into the system, trillions of dollars. And they're taking that money and they're buying their stock back with it. Otherwise, if you take stock buybacks out of our market since 2008, that statement would say it would have several zeros, missing from it.
Wow.
And you can't continue to do that forever. So you need to understand that is not a bank statement. There's absolutely no value there at all intrinsically, and the only value you can statement into real money, and the only way you can do that is to sell and to then take that money out of the market. You cannot sell it. You can't sell one stock and buy another stock. That will not put food on the table for your family. If your goal is to put food on the table for your family, is to keep shelter and have real resources with which you can provide and protect people that you love, you need to turn that into real money. And there's only one way to do that.
I love it. Thank you, Jeff, for your time. And folks, thank you for paying attention and learning some things today. Definitely get this book. This isn't a theory. This is real life you're playing with, and it's your real life. And the whole goal of this show is to help people through the valleys of life, both in your health and in your wealth. And today, hopefully you've learned that really a lot of the things you think are real are in fact not. And it's up to you. God gave you this 6 inches between your ears to use. So make sure to connect with Jeff or someone like Jeff to get more educated on what options you really have. Because there are options. Most of the time, you're just not going to hear about them. So Jeff, thank you for your time. And folks, stay tuned to the next Healthy Wealth Show, where we interview thought leaders in faith, in financial, and entrepreneur, as well as in health. Y'all have a great day. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.